straight to questions. We're going to open it up front row, middle. Dave?
Ryan, last year Michigan's defense seemed to be in man coverage almost 100% of the time. This year they seem to be mixing it up a little bit more. Can you just speak on what differences you've seen from them schematically on defense this year?
Yeah, they've gone to a lot more zone, and but they mix it up, and Coach Brown does a great job of that. He's always had a lot of different coverages and a lot of different looks, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of them on Saturday.
Front row right. Austin?
Ryan, when Justin went down late in the fourth quarter, I saw he bounced back up, but what kind of conversation was that? Was your heart in your throat a little bit? Take me through that process there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anytime you see your starting quarterback on the ground, it's not a good feeling, but he was able to shake it off and kind of run off the field, and so we expect him to be fine.
With that volume of carries, is that just this when you get in those big games, you hold nothing back? Is it too many for him, do you think? When you watch the film, what did you think of that amount of rushing attempts?
Yeah, no, I thought when we play in big games like that, we certainly rely on him to run some, and it's not typically quarterback design runs, although we have some of those. A lot of them we're reading somebody, and based on what he does, he can either keep it or run it. And then some of those are scrambles, when you look at his numbers. And he does a great job extending plays. But, Penn State kind of forced him to run the ball a little bit, and he did a great job. Other than the 2 turnovers, I thought he was unbelievable. And so, we'll continue to do that when we think it's appropriate.
Second row middle. Steve?
Yeah, Coach, just curious, you coached under Coach Meyer for 2 years with his schedule of this week and how to handle it. Are you tweaking anything? What does Thanksgiving look like? Senior tackle, do you guys still do that? Just how does this week, day by day, break out?
Yeah, just because of, like you said, the holiday, we keep Tuesday, Wednesday pretty similar. We have our family dinner Wednesday night, and then we get in here early. Coaches work late Wednesday night. We get in here early and practice Thursday. And then, we do our senior tackle and then let everybody get home for Thanksgiving and then go right back at it Friday. So pretty similar to what we've done in the past.
Right next door. Bruce?
Growing up in New England, what was the rivalry that you as a kid and, liking football, what were some of the rivalries or the rivalry you focused on?
Yeah, growing up, it was mostly the pro sports because that's where I was from in the Boston area. And, it was Red Sox, Yankees. It was Celtics, Lakers. The Patriots really didn't have too many rivals at that point. But, that was kind of it. But certainly growing up, that was kind of your identity was that. And definitely with the Red Sox. Every time somebody wears a Red Sox hat back home, that's, who you are. And certainly can relate that to everybody who grew up in the state of Ohio and when they put the Block O on.
There's been a shift in this rivalry toward the Ohio State side since Dressel was the coach here. He largely got it done with Ohio guys. When you're bringing guys in from out of state, how do you get them to understand the priority that this rivalry is to the school?
In recruiting, we talked to them right from the get-go, and that's one of the reasons why some people come to school here is for the rivalry because we make such a big deal of it. As you guys know, when you walk in the building, it's all over the place, and we talk about it all the time, and we talk about it in recruiting in all different areas, whether it's strength and conditioning or football or anything other areas. And so, it's something that you just ingrain, and then the more these guys are in the program, the more they get it. And we still have a huge, majority of our guys are from the area, so they get it and they talk to the guys about that.
Second row right. Kyle?
The big matchup in this game the last few years has been your offense and Don Brown's defense. And you guys coached together at Boston College for a few years. Just curious how close you guys got there and if he's been someone you've stayed in touch with at all.
Yeah, so, he actually coached against me when I played and then coached my brother at UMass. And then we coached together at Boston College and now get an opportunity to coach against each other in a huge rivalry game, which makes it hard. But nothing but respect for his background and what he's done defensively over the years. One of the best guys in the business.
Then growing up in New England, do you have memories of this game at all? Anything in particular you remember growing up about the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry?
Not just that, it was always on this weekend and, it was almost heated rivalries and just remember watching it. And I remember being in a hotel room watching when Curtis Samuel, scored in double overtime. I mean, just so many memories of what this game means. And, it's no mystery throughout the country that it's the biggest rivalry in all sports.
Fourth row middle. Patrick?
Brian, Bruce asked you about integrating players and kind of following up on Kyle's side. How did you get integrated when you first arrived here to what this meant, being that you grew up watching it, but it's different.
Yeah. No, I think for the first I don't know 6 months, my son and I, when we came in the building together, we'd sit there in the front atrium and we'd watch that video of the season before, and just as you get here, you start to live it every day and you understand it. And Coach Meyer certainly talked about it all the time, and learned that way, and then being in the game twice, and the respect that I have for the rivalry is off the charts. It's just one of the reasons, and makes it so special to be at Ohio State.
Third row right, Rob.
There's a lot of reasons this has been lopsided since early 2000s, but is there a secret sauce that's involved in this? And what did you learn from Urban? You mentioned it just a second ago. What specifically, if anything, on how to handle this?
Again, if you're working on it all year, then you're prepared. Whether you've worked on it in the spring, you've worked on it in the preseason, you have certain periods that you set aside just to work on the team up north. You talk to your guys all the time about what it means, and so they understand coming into the game what to expect. It's always on the schedule that way. We have the countdown in the building, and so I think everybody understands the importance of it. That's the first thing, and I think when you're just talking about the game itself, it just goes back to the fundamentals and taking care of the football, executing the game plan, giving them a good plan that they can execute. And being on the road is a little different than being at home. We're gonna have to handle that, and being loud and the crowd noise and everything else. So we'll handle that today and make sure we pipe in the crowd noise during practice and show composure there. But it's just gonna come down to win the one-on-one battles in the end.
I want to get your reaction on this. There's several surveys out there, Buckeye Nation. 40% would, given a choice, would rather beat Michigan and lose in the playoff than win a national title and lose to Michigan. Does that surprise you at all? What's that speak to the intensity here?
Oh, I don't know. I just know we're focused on this game, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of people do a lot of what-if scenarios and everything, and I know that this game means everything to us, and nothing matters if we don't win this game. So we got to win the game, and that's the only way I look at it.
Front row left, Nathan.
Just what stands out to you about Michigan's offense, and how have you seen it sort of develop and progress over the course of the season?
Yeah, I thought that's since the halftime of the Penn State game, they've really played good football, and Patterson's throwing the ball well. The receivers are good. Collins, Peoples-Jones. I think their tight ends are good. The offensive line did a really good job against Notre Dame, and they got a good scheme. They had a lot of good coaches there, so they kind of found a rhythm in the second half of the season here, and so it'll probably be our biggest challenge again. As we've gone on the season, I think we've been challenged more and more, and this will be the most talented group we've seen by far.
The way that they sort of move people around, motion, misdirection, things like that, is that something that could potentially negate Chase Young, and how do you see your defense having to kind of respond to that?
They're sound and they do a good job. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to players, and I don't think they're going to do anything that's going to be anything that we probably haven't seen, but maybe they will. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to execution and guys winning their one-on-one battles.
Second row left, Ari.
Hey, Ryan, last year you guys had a huge recruiting battle head-to-head with somebody in this state with Harrison. But over the course of the past 7 years, it doesn't seem like you've butted heads with Michigan at all on the recruiting trail, whether it's in this state or not. Are you ever surprised by how little of a presence they have in Ohio on the recruiting trail based on just the fact that they've won a lot of games and have traditionally done that?
Well, we take a lot of pride in recruiting the state of Ohio, and then we put their recruiting list on the board and compare our guys to theirs, just about every day, every week, and that's something that Mark looks at every day, and that again, that's part of how you live this rival is you compare yourselves every day against them, and we take a lot of pride in the fact that we recruit Ohio at a high level, and we're very competitive, but they do a good job too. They have good recruiters and obviously a wonderful program, so it's always a big challenge, and that's why we go at it every day.
My next question was about how the recruiting board their recruiting board is on your wall. What can you learn from that? How long has that been going on? And as the head coach of this program, I'm assuming you've had to transition into the role of understanding what the entire strategy is and being in charge of that. What do you learn from it?
It's been there since I got here, and it just gives you some awareness of where we're at and the battles, like you said, that we're in against certain guys, and we rank our people, and we just want to always know exactly who those guys are because we know we're going to be playing them, and that's what's important, in recruiting. Sometimes you don't worry about the guys you don't get; you worry about the guys you do get. But when you're playing, or when you're going up against a team up north, you're going to be playing against them, so it does matter who you don't get, and so we just look at that very carefully.
Do you ever make decisions in recruiting based on what's on their board?
It influences us, sure.
Right next door, Bill?
Ryan, everyone saw what you guys did last year against Michigan's defense, 62 points against a unit of that caliber, and it seemed like a lot of it was stuff you had in to beat man-to-man coverage, and obviously Michigan has adjusted its defense. But I'm wondering how you've seen every defense you've played adjust to you guys since you did that, and in turn maybe how that shaped your offensive plan this season.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole new year, so we look at the film a little bit to see what they did and everything like that. But they're going to make adjustments on all that stuff. They're very well coached, so we really don't look at that much at all. We're really looking at this year, kind of what we do, what they're doing. Their personnel is very different now, and what he's doing is significantly different. So, yeah, I mean, guys are kind of on a week-to-week basis, they look and see what we're doing, and they try to stay a step ahead of you. But that's the evolution of a season, and once you get more and more games on film, then they make the adjustments from there.
I guess maybe to reword that, what percentage of zone coverage do you think you all see this year, and how does that compare to last year?
Probably pretty similar. Yeah.
It's not different after you put 62 on.
No, I mean, I just think that all of those plays weren't against man-to-man. There were some, but he mixes up his zones, and there was some zone in there too.
And Justin and Chris both were talking about executing the deep ball coming off the Rutgers game. Looked like maybe one or two were underthrown last week, and I can't imagine it's an issue of arm strength with Justin. I'm just wondering, when a guy has an arm that is that strong, can it be any harder to calibrate it to make sure you're putting that ball in the right place, and maybe could you overcompensate and end up leaving it short a little too much?
Yeah, the first one we were, it was a calculated throw that we wanted to really shoot down the field, and Chris is so fast that he kind of outran his arm on that one to the field. That was a big ball. The other one, to me, it was a little bit more. He had to move in the pocket because somebody flashed in his face, so it didn't come out on rhythm like we like. So typically it's just a timing thing. Justin has a very, very strong arm, so. It's usually in the pocket, so that's why we want to firm up that pocket so the ball comes out on time.
Coming out of the Penn State game, you said that in the second half when things were kind of going south, that kind of retrenched and weren't as aggressive as you normally are. In hindsight, do you think that was the right thing? Does it inform anything you might do this week against Michigan, knowing that it's probably going to be a close game, or it's going to be a tough situation?
No, it doesn't change anything. I think absolutely it was the right thing to do at the time, and won the game. That's the number one thing to do, and so you do everything you can to win the game. But we're aggressive. We always will be aggressive, and we're going to be aggressive. Yeah.
And in terms of what this game means to you, you've always said you don't feel pressure here. You feel opportunity, but you took over for a coach and went 7-0. Your first game against Michigan. How are you approaching this game for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do the best I can to make it like every week, although we all know it's not, and do a little extra here, do a little extra there to make sure that we're covering every single scenario we can, making sure we're letting the guys have a great plan. But if you start to overdo things, then you can get yourself jammed up, and that's why all the work gets done ahead of time. That's why we live at 365, so that when you get here during the week, you don't have to all of a sudden come up with an unbelievable speech on a Tuesday. The guys know what it is, and you can put the focus more on giving them a good plan, making sure things are tight, and spending your focus on making sure the guys are prepared.
So when you took over December 4th, you're already thinking about this game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret that, part of your evaluation as the head coach at Ohio State is how you do in this game. We all know that. So when you take the job, you understand that. You could win them all and then not win this game, and you feel like it's a disappointment. And I get that. I embrace it, and that's why we're working so hard this week.
Right next door, Tim?
Yeah, Ryan, number one, what is that key area that's between tight and loose that you want to get to for this game? I mean, obviously you don't want the guys so tight.
Yep.
I mean, how do you play that?
Well, I call it focus. I think when you look at someone's eyes, you can tell if they're focused or not. And based on how well you prepare, the more confidence you have. So I look at it like, if you're taking a test and you know the answers to the test, you're focused, but you're not nervous and you're locked in, you know you're going to do well because you have all the answers to the test. If you don't know all the answers to the test, and you start getting nervous, you start getting anxious. But as long as our focus is right and we understand that, which I'll be shocked if it isn't, and we prepare the right way, that gives us our best chance to be successful.
And the other thing, I mean, we don't get to talk to these two guys this week, but Greg Madison and Al Washington Jr., how special a week is this for them, considering where they were a year ago? And how much do you lean on them for insight?
Here and there, but they're busy getting their side ready to go, and I'm sure there's a range of emotions, and certainly when they get on the bus and head up there, there'll be even more. But it's just one of those things that's part of the job. You work through it, and they'll be really professional about it, and they know there's a lot riding on this game, and they want to do great for their players and for their families and everything like that. But I'm sure there's a lot of emotions going on there.
Real quick follow. Did you go after them because of something also that they could bring to this week in particular, or was
No.
that part of the attraction?
No. The major attraction was that I knew both of them very well. One, I was a coach when he played, and then I coached with him. And then the other one I coached with and have a tremendous amount of respect for. And my whole plan was that, when I have an opportunity to have my first coaching staff, everybody in that room I trusted that had my back when things maybe didn't go so well. And that was it. And it just so happened to be that it was against the School of North. And I know sometimes that's hard to swallow, but that was just what it was.
Third row middle, Dan?
Ryan, is there a specific moment or memory you have after you arrived here at Ohio State where you realized just how important this rivalry was to people here?
I don't think it was just one moment. There's a lot of moments, just because it's every day. It's every day in the Woody. It's when you recruit. It's everything. So I don't think there was one moment, but there's a lot of moments. The most memorable, I think, for me when I tell the story is that when they talk about throwing out the records and that anything can happen in this game was just what happened to JT. And I was kind of we're preparing, we're getting ready to play in that game, and right as the ball's about to kick off, I hear JT's hurt and he can't go back in the game, and the game hasn't even started yet. And I said, okay, well, here we go. We're in the rivalry game. So, had to adjust there, and then he played in the first half, and then Dwayne had to come in and go win the game, and that just goes to show you, there's no records in a game like this. It's a rivalry, and anything can happen. So, buckle up and get ready.
How exciting is it for you personally to be going through this rivalry week as a head coach for the first time?
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know if that's the number one emotion right now for me. There's just so many things going on. But once we get closer to the game, I'll get more and more excited to play the game. But right now, the focus is just on getting our guys ready, preparing, make sure the game plan's right, making sure practice is right, making sure our guys are healthy, and just making sure everything's in place to give our guys the best chance to be successful. And then as we get closer, the competitiveness starts to ramp up, and you get ready to play.
Front row left, Doug?
What did it tell you about Chris Olave last year for him to have 2 touchdown catches in the Michigan game like that and sort of bust on the scene in a game that important? What did you learn about him?
Well, I think you learned what followed after that, which is that he's a great player. I don't think anybody really knew up until that game what he was capable of, and then what you've seen afterwards is what he is capable of. So, just obviously to play in a game like that and to become a legend in the history of the game, as a freshman to block a punt and have 2 touchdowns, that's just unbelievable. And then look what he's done from here. So that was a great way to start off his career.
Talking about the way, obviously it does seem like Michigan is playing more zone this year. Ohio State was a time when Ohio State was playing press man pretty much every snap several years ago, and now you guys mix up coverages. In today's day and age, do you feel like most defenses have to give different looks at this point? Can a good college team really come out and say, we're playing man, we dare you to beat us? Or is it just hard to do that?
Yeah, teams do. And, teams like to change it up. I'll say this. Nobody gives more looks than Don Brown when it comes to different looks. He takes a lot of pride in that. I know that. And over the years, his different teams, they'll play more zone than man. They'll play more zone than or man than zone. And what he does a great job of is he puts his guys in position to be successful. And so again, some of those things last year, maybe it seemed like, man, they were still zone. And so he changes it up, and he does a great job. And I know he's going to do another good job this weekend.
And this is repeating a question you've been asked a million times. Everybody grows up with stuff. The two previous head coaches here grew up with this. Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer could tell stories of when they were a kid, and they did, about Ohio State, Michigan. You didn't grow up in Ohio. It doesn't disqualify you from being the Ohio State head coach or from this rivalry. But I don't know, can you just explain when you come to learn about something as an adult, right, that maybe it's not in you, but I think maybe on some level, you know, you have a different appreciation of it because it's not necessarily in your blood, but man, when you start learning about it, you do start understanding it. Just that process for you, the history of it, the intensity of it, because you really did come to it more as an adult.
Yeah. Well, and I think that for me to see what this means to the people of Ohio and the Buckeye Nation, that's to me where it really hits home to me, and it strikes at my heart strong because I just see that this is everything. I just know that you know, the Ohio State football team means everything to the people of Ohio. It runs deep in their blood, and it's who they are. It's their identity. It's their pride. And to be the head coach of the football team, that's just an unbelievable responsibility, and that's why we stay late at night. We come early in the morning and make sure we do everything we can to make sure we're successful in this game because it means so much to so many people, and I take that to heart.
Far left, Lori.
You were asked about sort of your history with rivalries as a sports fan, but if you were a football player yourself, what's your experience with rivalry games in terms of your play as a quarterback?
You know, when I was in college, we had a rivalry against Maine, and that was big. Back in New Hampshire, we had that. We fought for the musket. That was the prize, and so that was a big rivalry for us. And then growing up, there was a lot of, you know, in our town of Manchester, New Hampshire, we have about 100,000 people in 4 high schools, and there was rivalry games, crosstown rivals, things like that. We played our Thanksgiving Day. It was called the Turkey Bowl in Gill Stadium in Manchester, New Hampshire, and that was a big time. You know, everybody in the city would come out for those kind of games, and so those are kind of my experiences.
But sort of jumping off Doug's question, did anything in your background prepare you for what the rivalry means here in Columbus?
Again, just seeing, and you know, I mean, I've been around sports my entire life. I've watched sports my entire life. That's what I've been since I could remember. I could walk, is just being a part of everything and seeing what it means to so many people. But again, growing up for me, it was more of the pro teams because that's what I saw, and it was still everything. I remember, you know, family members crying when the Red Sox, you know, were in the World Series and the ball went through Bill Buckner's legs, and I mean things like that. You remember because that's the way life was, and you know, going into the Garden to watch Bird go against Magic Johnson and those type of things, and those are the reasons why you become a coach, is to be in those kind of environments, and this is what this is here. Yeah.
Right next door, Matt.
The ball security issues from last week, you haven't had them really all year. Any common thread in it? Was it just good defensive plays by Penn State, and how much is that obviously going on the road, I guess, emphasized this
Yeah,
week?
I mean, it's completely inexcusable, and you know, that's how you ruin a whole season right there. So that being said, I think it was a little bit of both. I think that we were a little careless. I thought a couple of them were really good plays. You know, the one to Justin and the goal line, he's working hard. The ball's pretty tight, and the guy puts his helmet right on the ball. Not an excuse, but I thought if you look at it, he wasn't just being careless there, but not good enough. We score right there. You know, the game could be completely different, and it wasn't. And then the two fumbles there between J.K. and Justin there in the third quarter, again, are inexcusable. Were they good players or not? Who knows? All I know is they can't give up the ball. And when we give someone the football, we put the whole team's trust in their hands and the future in their hands, and they know that. You know, they know that. So it's something that, you know, they're not great champions. They were warriors. They both played real tough, and they played really good. But you know, if you give up the ball, you're not a champion, and you put our team at risk. So you know, we talked about it, and we're going to get it fixed.
Michigan's run defense, early in the year they with Wisconsin, which a lot of teams do, but it looks like statistically they've shorted up. What do you see when you look at them? Because that's running game is obviously a big part of your offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they were kind of finding their way early in the season, and they've found a rhythm now. Again, I think probably since the second half of that Penn State game is when they caught their rhythm. You know, Wisconsin did hit some runs on them early with Taylor, but they're good. They found their way, and you know, he's done a good job of getting the guys in the right positions to be successful.
Front row left, Mitch.
Coming off that a little bit, Shea Patterson's playing his best fall of the season. When you look at tape of him, can you tell why that is? He's doing anything different? What's going on with him?
No, I don't really know. You know, I'm not there, so I don't know the dynamics of what's going on. So it's hard to tell when you don't know people. But I do see him being more confident, and I see, you know, a group that feels like they found an identity, and they got really good receivers, by the way. You know, I mean those receivers are talented, and offensive line's giving them time. So, I don't know exactly what made them all click, but it seems like it's going well right now for them.
Fourth row middle, Wyatt.
Going off of Doug's question about Chris Olave's performance, how important is that type of performance in that large of a game for a freshman player in developing him?
Well, I just think it gives him confidence that if he can do it in that game, he can do it in any game, which he's kind of shown that he can do. And so, what a great opportunity to step up in a big time rivalry game. Then again, this year, who's going to be the guy who steps up and becomes a legend in Ohio State football history? You know, that's what's fun about playing in games like this.
Folks, we have just a few more minutes. Just FYI, second row left, right, Tony.
Right. What was your record as a starter when playing for the Musket?
Ooh, I think I might have been 1-2. I think. Yeah, I gotta check to be sure. It was a while ago. That was a while ago.
I was going to ask you for your most distinct Michigan memory, but it sounds like it was the start of that 2017 game. And then what do you remember when JT finally went down for good at the end in terms of getting Dwayne ready for that?
Well, going into the game, the week before, we played Illinois at home in the pouring rain, and Dwayne came into the game and fumbled on like his second snap. They returned it for a touchdown, and we had to put JT and the starters back in the game, which was a complete nightmare. So that was my last memory of how Dwayne was doing on the field, and now we're in the rivalry game trying to play and win the game. And I think it was his first 2 snaps were 2 false starts. It was 3rd and 3. We got a false start. It was 3rd and 8. We got a false start. It was 3rd and 13. Then he threw the fade route to Austin Mack. And then from there, he played really good. He kind of stepped into it, and I think that was his you talk about Chris Olave's moment. That was probably Dwayne's moment to say, yeah, I'm here now. So it was great to see him compete like that. But up until that moment, I wasn't really sure how it was going to go down.
Were you upstairs?
I was in the box, yeah. Yeah, no, it was just, hey, here we go. And have at it, brother.
Ryan, in this rivalry, looking back the last really 20 years, the team that wins the rushing battle typically teams to win, whoever outgains the other. And obviously, that probably typically happens in football, where the team that wins is going to outgain the other. But I'm curious, in this rivalry, why do you think that's been magnified or really important?
I think it's important in every game because you control the clock, you control the game when you can run the football. I thought we did that last week, other than the turnovers, because if we don't turn the ball over, we pretty much control that game because we ran the ball. But I just think it's important that way. You can throw the ball and that's fine, but when you can run the ball, you control the clock, you control the game. And so I think that's why it's typically important.
And Jonathan Cooper announced last week that he's going to pursue a red shirt, so he can appear in one more game. How do you guys determine where he comes back, how he prepares during the week, what game you want to use him for?
A lot of things come into play. The depth of our D-line, his overall health, if he's exactly at 100%, what the game plan is. But it's good to know that we have a game that we can use him in if it's fit. And then certainly, he's going to play in another game this year. We just don't know exactly which one yet.
Fourth row right, Aaron.
Ryan, in regards to having Al Washington and Greg Madison on your staff, how much of an edge do you think that gives you from a game planning perspective in terms of maybe what Don Brown might be thinking on Saturday?
Not much. I mean, it's a different team. They're a different team, and there's a couple things here and there, but for the most part, you just watch the film and you got to figure out what your guys can do. Sometimes that stuff gets overrated because you start to overthink things. I mean, those guys, obviously have their hands full on the other side, so they're busy over there.
Over here to the right, Don.
You study these guys year-round. You know what they're about. You know what all their players are about. How good is this team that you're going to face, and is this the best club you'll face this year?
It's the most talented, and we'll see. I mean, they have the ability to be as good as anybody in the country, when they're playing well, and so I think they're playing their best football now. And certainly we're going to get their best shot on Saturday.
And final questions over here to the right plate.
From the time that Urban stepped down until he gave you the whistle,
what was that, after the Rose Bowl?
Mhm.
Was there anything he said to you one-on-one about this game?
No, but just because I think we talked about it all the time, during those 2 years was just how important it was. And, we were coming off of the heels of the rivalry game last year when, we played very well on offense. So, in the time that we had put into that game plan, and I think he understood that, how much I appreciated, what he did to build this rivalry up in his 7 years here and what his record was. And to think that, he's 7-0 is just completely overwhelming sometimes. But all you do is you just put one foot in front of the other and you just keep working. And that's all we've done. That's all our coaching staff has done. That's what I've done. And we're going to do the same thing this week.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance the weather's not going to be great up there on Saturday. What are your thoughts on that? And also, if that's the case, it could come down to the run game. Could you kind of describe your thoughts on the challenge of stopping their run game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it's bad weather game, that's good for defense. So I don't know, not really worried about the weather, but the run game presents some challenges. Big, strong offensive line, good backs. So we'll have our work cut out for us.
Ryan Day, this is first year as head coach coaching in the rivalry game. How can you tell that it's important to how important it is to him? What indications does he give you that it's important?
Yeah, I mean, everything's been the same since I've been here, so that's been passed down from Coach Meyer to Coach Day, and as you can see throughout the facility, and you see all the signs and everything, so that's one indication. And then we train for it all year long. So, workouts, and then in the spring practice, we have a period set aside for a team up north, and then going into preseason camp we do as well. So,
With Coach especially, I mean, what is it in what he says to you, how he acts, that he gets it, what this rivalry is?
I think everything gets ramped up this week, just his intensity. I practice on Sunday, and then obviously throughout the week it'll be the same way. Just everything gets ramped up, intensity, and just get his players ready to go.
Tuf, is there a moment that you can think of after you arrived here where maybe it hit you just how important this rivalry is to people here?
I don't know if there's a particular moment. Obviously, like it's ingrained in you the moment you walk on campus, and until you actually play in that game, that's when you kind of understand kind of what this rivalry means to not only the people in this facility, but throughout the whole state of Ohio, around the country. So yeah.
Obviously, you grew up in Illinois. Did you feel like you had a pretty good understanding of how important it was when you got here, or did you kind of learn that over the course of your first year?
No, that's definitely learned. Coming in here, you have no idea what this means. And like I said, until you actually play in the game and gain some experience, then you kind of get some insight on what this means.
Just schematically, what Michigan does, what kind of challenges does that present? What are you guys going to have to be aware of against them that maybe you don't against another opponent?
Schematically, I mean, I don't know, big bodies, multiple tight end packages. They have the ability to run the ball right at you, but then they also have playmakers along the perimeter, quarterback. So just multiple ways that they can attack the defense.
Are you expecting more of a passing challenge over the middle from a team like this? It seems like they do that a lot with the RPOs and stuff.
Yeah, they do. I don't know. I think our defense kind of helps eliminate some of that, but we'll see what happens.
Jeff, what's your most distinct memory about this rivalry on or off the field?
2016 was probably one that sticks out to me. Obviously, I didn't play in it, but just being around in the stadium, with that atmosphere and the way the whole game kind of unfolded, that's one that sticks out. And then last year with how things went during the course of the year, and then to play like we did, that was good too.
Yeah, Tuf, speaking of last year, can you quantify the difference from a confidence standpoint, or whatever you want to call it, of you guys defensively compared to this time a year ago, coming off that Maryland game, et cetera, just what's the level of confidence, I guess, in that group now defensively?
I mean, earlier on in the year, we were trying to prove ourselves like last year's in the past. I don't know. I don't really think about it too much. It's in the past for a reason. All you can do is kind of focus in on the week ahead, and obviously we're playing at a high level right now, and only thing we can do is continue to do that.
I was going to say, but as you're playing now, is it a sense you all have the same thoughts going on? I mean, what is that sense out there as a unit, the way y'all have played so effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's extremely high levels of confidence, extremely high levels of trust in the people around you, that they're going to get their jobs done, and that we all can, contribute and play at a high level to make this thing go.
And one other quickie, what is that fine line between being amped and too amped going into a game like this?
Yeah, I think controlling your emotions is important. Throughout the whole week, the urgency and everything, you can't help it. It happens. Emotions happen, but you got to do your best to play under control and execute at a high level.
Next door, Austin. Whether it's on the sideline during the game or maybe even get back in the linebacker room and watch the film, whatever, when everybody that you guys put out there makes a play, a pick or a tackle for loss, a sack, it seems like every linebacker got a chance to do something. How cool is that? How special was kind of that performance for your unit on Saturday?
Yeah, it's awesome. Any time that guys can go out there and make big plays in a game in big spots, it's just awesome to see. And I think that just shows like how close this group is. No matter if it's a D-line, DBs, linebackers, whoever's making a play, everyone's jumping on them, everyone's congratulating, everyone's happy for them. So, yeah, really close group.
Last couple, Rob.
Just curious how much individual games of the past are brought up this week. Maybe not by Coach Dave, but sort of be careful because anything can happen. Does history enter into this, and how much, or is sort of history just this blur?
No, I mean, we know it's no secret. It's gonna be a tough game. With the rivalry. The whole season comes down to one game. It doesn't matter how good or bad the season's going. You're gonna get that team's best. So we're gonna play our best.
There's no warnings like 1990s games or any specific game, or is there?
I don't know what happened in 1990. I don't know. I don't know, but.
4th and 18 inches.
Yeah.
And the last question, Minor.
Can you describe the impact that you've seen of other teams just on the field, when they see Chase Young, and how that's maybe changed over the course of the season?
Chase is a great player. No, that's no secret. He's going to make plays. Makes a tremendous impact on the field, makes everybody's jobs easier. Just a great player.
And can you also talk about the impact that Al Washington and Greg Madison have had in the time they've been here?
Yeah, I know those guys are great. They're kind of their energy and their kind of mentality. It's really contagious. I think that shows kind of throughout the whole linebacker room and throughout the whole defense. Thank you.
All right, we will start in the back.
on the defense, the whole team this year. How has Seven Banks kind of earned a spot in that rotation, and how have you seen him improve since he got here?
I mean, just coming in from as a freshman, you could just tell just how talented athletically he was. And I think this year he's taken steps on the mental side of the game for sure, but also just his ability to finish now has really taken some huge steps. So I think that's where Seven's at, and I can't wait to see how his career takes off even more.
Front row, Bill.
The strength of Michigan's offense is probably their receivers. They're big, strong, fast, all that stuff. Could you describe the challenges you have? Obviously, your secondary is the strength of your defense, too. How much are you looking forward to that challenge? What are the keys to that matchup?
We definitely look forward to it. But, after watching the film and just knowing them from prior years, they're definitely a very talented group, one of the most talented groups we play all year. So we definitely have our hands full with them. But I'm confident in our group as well. So we're going to prepare hard and try to get a beat on the kinds of stuff they like to do and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely have our hands full. It should be fun.
Fourth row left, Jared.
Jordan, they got one of the most physical receiving groups you'll see. Guys with not only great size but great speed. What is it you've evaluated from them early on here in study that make them a unique group?
Really, they can do it all. They have guys that have great hands. They can go up and get the ball, but also when they have the ball in their hands, they can make something happen with it. So they can attack you in every which way. So that's something you got to be prepared for.
How do you prepare for it? What changes?
I would say extra film study, making sure everybody's on the same page, and I think tackling is going to be a big part of this game as well. So.
Front row, Doug, Google.com.
There was a play last week where Penn State hit a run up the middle for 10 or 12 yards, and I think you came up and made the tackle in space, and it felt like if you don't make that tackle, maybe that goes all the way to the house. Can you just describe, like, in a moment like that, what's that like when you're the single deep safety and there's a guy coming at you and it's like, man, I got to tackle this guy or we're in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I take pride in, and just letting our defense go out and play another down and getting the guy on the ground. But it's definitely not your favorite position to be in, but it's something that has to be done. And, I mean, that's why I have the name safety. So, I mean, I just try to make that play for my teammates every time.
And Jeff Hafley, after the game, was saying, I think he called you like an eraser back there, that if there's other mistakes that get made, maybe that you can sort of erase the mistake by making sure it doesn't get out. Just, do you like that responsibility? You sort of just said you don't want to be in that position all that much, but how do you think all year you have done in being sort of the last guy back there to make sure big plays don't break?
I think I've done a pretty good job of it, just in trying to be a sure tackler and make sure big plays are limited and stuff like that. But that's pretty high praise, and I appreciate that, him saying that. But it doesn't mean anything if I don't keep doing my job. So.
Jordan, there was a play, I think there might have been two plays against Penn State where somebody broke wide open on one side of the field. The ball never went there. I think one of them might have been the play where you might have almost got an interception, and Hamler was like sort of, there was a mix-up and Hamler was running free down the sideline. When you guys are watching film, like, how much do you talk about breakdowns that might happen that don't end up impacting the play? Like, for instance, did you guys see that and think like, well, if the quarterback actually would have saw that, that would have been a bad deal for us? Or you just talk about the other side of the play where the ball went and the good play that you all made on that?
We talk about both. So obviously we don't want anybody running open in our defense, but at the same time, I think we might have saw the quarterback looking the other way or something like that. But I know I did, so that's why I kind of went over to the sideline and helped Pete out. But yeah, we definitely don't want anybody running open in our defense. So, I mean, that's why we watch film, and that's stuff we got to get better at the same time. We're not perfect.
Jordan, obviously there's a lot of talk about Michigan revamping their offense and brought in new offensive coordinators. You've studied the film. Just how different are they offensively?
They are a bit different, just in certain things they like to do. I usually watch the pass stuff, so I haven't watched too much of the run game and stuff like that. But yeah, they try to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers, just in kind of different ways than last year maybe, but it's still a similar offense, I would say. But yeah, just trying to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers.
Yeah, George, this compared to this time a year ago, y'all were coming off that Maryland game. I know you don't like to talk about that, but what is that sense when you're out there on the field right now that is there a sense of confidence that maybe you guys as a group didn't have a year ago? What is just that sense that you as a player have when you're with that group right now playing as well as y'all are defensively?
There definitely is more of a sense of confidence just because we've played well up until this point. And just trusting the guy next to you to do his job and really just going out and playing for each other. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's what attributes to our success the most, just the love of your brother and going out and playing as hard as you can for him. But there definitely is a higher sense of confidence, but I think it comes with our preparation during the week.
Another thing, Shea Patterson, what have you noticed is different about him compared to a year ago as you prep for this game, especially the last several games? They seem to be playing with much more confidence with their big over-the-top passing game as much as anything else. But what just stands out about him right now?
Strong arm, the ability to extend plays and still keep his eyes down the field, but also I think he looks comfortable. Definitely in these past few games, he looks really comfortable, and he's playing at a high level right now.
Last couple, we will go all the way to the left, Lori.
We hear all the time about how this is a 365-day-a-year rivalry. What is the most important thing you do outside of game week to get ready for the game?
I don't think you could point to a single thing. I think it's just a culmination of everything we do, like whether it's the workouts or different periods during the spring or like fall camp, the countdown clock. I mean, it's always in the back of your mind just how important it is for us and the state of Ohio and all our fans and families and stuff like that. So I can't really point to a singular thing, but I think it's a culmination of everything.
Front row, Austin. Jordan, you guys in the secondary had a couple chances to get your hands on the ball and keep them, get a pick. They slipped away. When DBs let one get away, what is the next week like? Extra jugs,
I would say, yeah. In terms of me, I know I've been working on catching the ball, but definitely this week I'll work on like contested catches maybe, because I feel like I caught it, but it just got knocked out at the end. But yeah, probably extra jugs and just never relaxing and definitely just looking the ball in. I think that's what.
Is it hard to duplicate those situations for you in practice? I mean, it's not like you want to get hit a bunch during the week.
It is, but our coaches always find a way to simulate something that's maybe not be the same as a game rep, but pretty darn close. So.
Thank you, Jordan. Are you playing the "It's Time for War" song this week still?
I think that's a coach question, but I've heard it a couple times. Yeah.
Good to go. We're going to open up the floor for linebacker Pete Werner. Front row left, Mitch from the Associated Press.
Hey, Pete. Thanks. Ryan Day's first year coaching in the rivalry game, he was in here talking about, how he heard about it as a kid but didn't live it. What indications has he given you guys that he gets it, that he gets how big this rivalry is to the state of Ohio, Ohio State fans, that sort of thing?
I mean, I don't think it takes long for somebody to realize how big this game is. He being the head coach, I mean, it's obviously he knows what's about to come up. Personally, I didn't really know much about the rivalry either, being a kid from Indiana. But once you get here and you're here long enough, and he's been here obviously long enough, he really knows what this rivalry is all about.
What does he do? What indications does he give you in your day-to-day that makes you understand that he understands?
I wouldn't say any particular indications. Obviously, what we've carried on from last year to this year. As far as indications, they're just it's a different way of life. We know when this week comes up, We walk a little bit differently, we act a little bit differently, and we just know what's ahead of us. And he understands that, the whole team understands that. But as far as any particular indications, I mean, there's so many to the point where it's kind of hard to explain.
Front row right, Tim?
Yeah, Pete, yeah, it's funny because you just brought it up. The three guys who've been up here so far are all from out of state.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan's from New Hampshire, your coach. But what is it that you learn immediately when you get in one of these games? What is different about it? You know, players in the past have talked about the hitting's harder, more crisp. It's a cleaner game. I mean, what have you taken away from your experience?
Yeah, everything's different. But the big thing that strikes to me is preparation. You got to prepare harder than that team. You got to work harder than that team, and that all starts on practice, especially today and the start this week. But yeah, preparation. There's just so many things that take account to win this game, and we beat them with preparation in the past, and that's what showed the outcome of the game.
And in a nutshell, what is the difference from a confidence standpoint for you guys defensively now compared to a year ago? Y'all are coming off that game at Maryland.
Yeah.
Everybody thought y'all figured it out, but you hadn't. But, I mean, now y'all are one of the top, maybe the top-rated defense in the country in a lot of respects. What is different out there now when you're playing from a confidence standpoint, et cetera?
I think that all the players are just confident in their game plan. We're just going out there confident with knowing what we're going to do to execute our job. And I think the results have shown, and that also boosts our confidence as well, knowing that we have results behind us to kind of show where we are, where we stand as a defense.
Front row middle, Joey from the Dispatch.
Pete, in this game over the years, the team that usually wins the rushing battle has the edge in the game. So stopping the runs, I guess, is even more important in this game. Why do you think that is, and what makes this game really important for stopping the run?
I just think that there's so much that goes into this game. Being physical, obviously, we all know from the past of this game, the most physical team is going to win this game. And when you think about physicality, offense and defense is about running the football. And if we've won that battle the past few years, and that's going to be a big game plan going in this week, is running the ball, being physical as possible.
Second row right, Tony?
Pete, what's your most distinct memory about this rivalry, on or off the field?
Memory. Well, it's all started in recruiting. When I was a recruit, I remember I was first row as a recruit, and I saw Curtis Samuel run that ball in the end zone. That kind of brought me here. I remember that was a crazy memory. And then being a freshman, being on kickoff, KOR, all those special teams, you know, everything you do, everything contributes to being a part in this game. Everybody has a role, everybody has a job to take part in winning this game. And that's what it was for me freshman year. Sophomore year, I got to play a little bit more and compete on the defensive side. But as far as a memory, I mean, there's so many things that take into account for this game. I just remember making a great play freshman year on kickoff, and then that just made me boost my confidence. And making a play in the end zone my sophomore year was really cool, having a PBU on that.
Front row right, Bill from the Dispatch.
You worked with Greg Madison and Al Washington probably the most of anybody because Greg works with you specifically. What impact have they had on you and the defense, and do you get a sense for how much this game means to them?
Oh yeah, I can already tell. This is the game that they've had checked on their calendar for the time they've been here, and they have something to prove. But I've learned so much from them. They're one of the best coaches I've ever been around. I've learned so much. I feel like I've become so much a better player because of them too. But this game is going to mean a lot, and we're going to prepare harder than we ever have, and that starts with them. And a lot of it is going to come through them.
Can you give an example of something that they've done in your game, physically, mentally, whatever it may be, that's really made a difference?
I just think that communication, as far as communication, they've been more. They've talked to you more in the game, let you know like what keys you're seeing based off the opponent throughout the game. Years past, we didn't really have that communication, but we're always tied and connected through communication that I think has helped. As far as Coach Washington, he's a guy that motivates you super well, and you're always on the edge of your seat in meetings with him. But just that intensity with both of them has kind of changed over, and it's helped a lot.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
You is there anything Michigan does schematically, or if they're doing well on offense, that you guys see that is something you guys really need to do better or be on point at to make sure you can stop this offense?
I wouldn't say anything particular. They do well at what they do, though, and that just means that we need to prepare harder than we ever have. But that goes into every single game that we played this year. Somebody does something very well, and we got to do so, and we got to prepare to stop that, whatever they have. Anything in particular, no. But I respect their offense, and that just means we have to prepare a little bit better.
Front row left, Nathan from Cleveland.com.
Just an extension of that, Shea Patterson, what stands out to you about the way he's playing right now?
Yeah, he's playing very well. He's one of those guys that's kind of tricky. He's got a lot of different options he can do. He scrambles very well, throws a great ball, and if you're catch lacking around, leave a guy open, he's going to make a play from it.
And right next door, Doug from Cleveland.com.
Did you say that the Curtis Samuel touchdown helped bring you here?
Oh, yeah, it was the factor. Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, whoa, are you kidding me? I got to come here. It was just one of those plays. I think I'm not the only one to say that, too. I was right next to a bunch of other recruits, and they were just like, wow, like this atmosphere. I remember talking to Urban Meyer after the game, and it sold me from there. He was like, wow, you see that play? Like, you see this game? I'm just like, yeah, I did. Yeah.
So there are so many guys now. It's so normal. There's so many guys from out of state, right, that there's so many of you that didn't necessarily grow up with this. But then when you're around it, you choose to be part of it. Is that like maybe you don't have it in your blood since you're 8 years old, but as soon as you get exposed, you think, I want to be part of that? Is that the deal?
I feel like growing up, I wasn't really a fan of any particular college sport. You could say like IU or whatever, but that just changes for everything. If I went to another school and I saw them perform well and I saw great tradition there, I would be in wow with that. But I came here and saw that, and I felt like they did it better than any other team in the country, and I was sold. So.
And just talking about Patterson again, they do some RPO stuff. Is that?
Yeah, I watched a little bit, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
What's the key for you guys in defending that kind of stuff?
We got to continue what we're doing. We've done well defending that the whole year. We just got to keep doing what we're doing, just improve a little bit better every day.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Pete, was Saturday the best you think you've played in your career here?
Best I've played in my career. I think it was up there. Yeah, I had a big challenge going into the game, and I felt like I executed pretty well. But yeah, I would say it's up there.
You referenced the PD last year in the game. You had a chance to do some of that again on Saturday. Those one-on-one matchups, what goes through your mind when you have those? What's allowed you to thrive in some of those scenarios?
Well, I see some formations. I know the ball is coming to me, so I'm kind of twitched up. I know it's coming. So I see those, and I try to take advantage of that. Try to make the best play I can. So they'll get some, I'll get some. But yeah, I kind of know it before. But it's just a great feeling. Like you have that opportunity to make a play. Let's go do it. So that's how I felt.
Over here to the right, Reiner from the Detroit Free Press.
How would you describe the impact that Chase has had, and have you seen teams or even quarterbacks kind of adjust and speed up the delivery?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like I hear quarterbacks talking in their head, I got to get it out in a certain amount of seconds because I got him in front of me. And that's going to help me. That's going to help our whole defense because we have a threat like that in front of us. Chase, leader on and off the field, but it's just great to have a good guy like that with the ability to put so much pressure on the quarterback.
Third row right, Aaron from MLive Media Group.
A few weeks ago, or a few minutes ago, you just said Al Washington and Greg Madison had this game checked on their calendar. I can understand Greg Madison or Al Washington's perspective, given his ties to Ohio State, but why do you think Greg Madison takes this game so seriously?
I think they both take the game. All the coaches take the games equally amount of serious. You're talking about one of the best rivalry in all of sports. If I was a coach, I would take it very seriously too. Being a player, obviously just as much. But yeah, Coach Washington and Coach Madison, yeah, they take this game is, like I said, marked on their calendar. It's very serious to them.
Second row left, Steven from Cleveland.com. Last two questions.
Pete, along the lines of last week, is Penn State. When you're, like, as the guy who's guarding tight ends in most of these games, I guess, like, what's the conversation of when you're playing a team who uses the tight ends like Penn State does, or even Michigan does, or Atlantic does? What's like, is there a number of what, like, a good day looks like when you're defending a guy like that?
A number of
receptions versus like yards?
I wouldn't say there's a particular number. Just if you're playing as the best as you can and you limit to them a certain amount of plays or a certain amount of snaps or balls completed or anything in that sort, you consider that doing well or playing well, and that seemed like it was the case last week.
And final questions. Second row left, Bill from The Athletic.
Pete, the PBU you were talking about last year, where's that rank on your personal highlight reel, and what did it mean, especially at that juncture in the game, to make a play like that? Is that something that, I don't know, pushed you forward in your career at all, making that kind of play?
Yeah, it was definitely one of my top plays that I consider, especially at the time in the game. They were getting that momentum, having that play to stop that I think led them to a field goal or something. I'm pretty sure. It made me feel really good. Kind of boosted my confidence. Kind of boosted the motivation for the whole defensive side as they were gaining that momentum. But the highlight reel, I thought it was pretty cool at the time, especially when I hear the loud atmosphere behind me. It was a great feeling.
You sort of touched on this a little bit, but when teams offenses line up in those 3-by-1 sets, and then the one side of the field is basically just you and the tight end, and you said you have a pretty good idea of what's coming.
Yeah.
Like, what's going through your mind in those situations? I don't like, do you feel pressure? Are you excited? Like, it's basically one-on-one. Sometimes you might have Jordan behind you, but they're trying to isolate you, and you got to make a play.
Yeah, well, that 3-1-1 set, that's the only time it's happened the whole year. So the first time I ever saw that was in that game right there. So I walk out, I see it, and if somebody's isolating me, I know what's coming. But excited, something you could say that. I just know that I'm going to have to make a play here to help with the situation our defense is in.
Pete, let me ask one quickie. On that, before the Curtis Samuel run, did the refs get the spot right from your vantage point?
I don't know if I can have a comment on that, but the position I was in, they did get it right. Yeah.
Pete, thank you very much. We're going to open up the floor for questions for offensive guard Wyatt Davis. Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Wyatt, how does it feel to get singled out as an offensive lineman when you get those sort of player of the game honors? And I know you guys pride yourself on being a group of 5, but for you to get the spotlight, what did that mean?
It meant a lot. Obviously, it meant I was doing something right. The preparation and hard work that goes into each week for each opponent, especially with Coach Stud, he wants nothing but the best from all of us. So, that's one of our goals. Why not? Because, we go through these team meetings and typically it's a skill guy, and he'll challenge us and say, why not you? So, it wasn't just an award for me. I felt like it was kind of an award for the group as a whole, and it just added a little bit of extra juice to what we got going on now. So, no, it was a great feeling, though.
Did you have a sense on Saturday that you were playing at that kind of level when you were out there?
No, I was just more so focused on just getting the victory and, doing my part. But, that didn't really pop up in my mind.
Front row right, Bill from the Dispatch.
Wyatt, the weather forecast for Saturday looks like could be snow. If that's the case, probably be more of a running game. How much would that excite you? What's the challenge of facing their defensive line, their front seven?
It's definitely going to be exciting if that's the case because, we love running the ball and love getting after it. But going against, Team Up North, their defensive line, and just their whole defense as a whole, it's going to be another great challenge for us. But this is something that we've been preparing for even before football season during the off season. So it's just going to come down to all the hard work and preparation that we did even before the season started. It all comes down to this game now. And, one of the few things we say in the O-line room is that it's going to count on us because if we're not producing, then as an offense as a whole, it can't function. And then we're putting the defense in bad positions. So if that's the case, we're going to take the challenge and just put in the work on Saturday that we've been putting in this whole entire time preparing for this moment.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
Wyatt, is there a moment or a memory since you've been here at Ohio State where you realized just how important this rivalry is to people?
Oh, could you repeat that one more time?
Is there a moment since you've arrived here at Ohio State where you realize just how important this rivalry game is to people?
Yes, I'll probably say it was on my recruiting trip. Actually, this was even before I got here. I never understood the rivalry, but I was wearing like a blue tank top in the facility, and one of the hosts was telling me, "Hey, do you have a jacket or anything? You got to take that off because you're not allowed to wear blue in here." And I remember I was just kind of sitting there like, "Well, it's like 100 degrees during the summer, and I got to put a jacket on." But no, I did. And then after, I guess word got to Coach Meyer, and I had the jacket on. He unzipped, and he was like, "Unzip that. Do you have that ugly color on?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Don't ever do that again." So then I was like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I definitely won't do that again." But no, that made me realize that this is real, and this is it's very historic, and we take that very serious around here.
Did you know much about Ohio State-Michigan rivalry before you came here, or is that something you kind of learned once you arrived on campus?
I learned once I arrived on campus, because I growing up in California, especially when I was younger, I wasn't really, focused on it. But I always knew that it was a rivalry, but I just didn't know how big it was, obviously, until I got here. So.
I'm sorry, front row right, Joey from the Dispatch.
Why, just to follow up on about running the ball from earlier, in this game, the team that typically can run the ball better will win. I know this will be your first time starting against Michigan, but why do you think the team that runs the ball better has an edge in this particular game, or why is it important in this game?
Because if you're successful running the ball, you're basically controlling the game. Because running the ball, you're controlling the time, and especially if you have one of those drives like we did on this past Saturday coming out, where it was like a 13-play drive. I mean, that, especially with how we go up tempo and run the ball, it gets the D line, it gets the whole defense kind of out of place because this guys start getting tired, and so if you're able just to keep on doing that and have those long play drives, it puts a little pressure on the defense. So I would definitely agree with that. That if we come out and do what we're supposed to do and dominate the running game, we definitely have a greater chance of getting the end goal that we want.
Did you guys decide before that opening drive last weekend we're just going to run the ball like basically every play?
No, I mean, we kind of just test the waters and see what's kind of going on. I mean, we knew it was going to be a great challenge for us up front because their D-line, prior to going into that game, we were studying, copious amounts of film on them just because they were all very talented across the board. And past teams haven't really had too much success, besides maybe Minnesota running the ball on them. So, we tested the water and we came out, we ran the ball, and we just started kind of, we felt the momentum shifting. Some of their guys kind of early on were getting tired, so we just kept pounding and pounding, and, it was working out for us. And it also kind of just sends a message to, the defense, like, oh, okay, these guys are coming out ready to play. So I'd probably would say that's why we did it.
Far left, Lori from 610 WTVN.
What have you seen from Justin since Saturday, and how good was it to see him perform in a physical game like he did, going into a game that is going to be equally, if not as more physical?
No, it was great to see. I mean, I've always said he's a great leader, and he definitely did take some shots this past game. That's stuff that we'll definitely clean up and fix. But the fact that he just was able to just bounce right back up and to keep on going, it says a lot about his toughness and his character. And like I said, I mean, he's just an incredible leader, and that's the type of effort that you want in your quarterback, especially when it gets in those tough physical games, not to shy away from getting hit. I mean, he'll sit there and he'll even take some shots and then complete a pass, which says a lot about him. So he's not afraid to take hits. And going against this last little stretch we got going on, we're gonna be playing more tough teams with tough defenses. So it's gonna even get more physical.
And how much blue clothing do you own now?
Oh, I burned it all.
Front row left, Bill, or second row left, Bill from Lettermen, or from The Athletic.
Wyatt, I know last year against Michigan you had to go in at the end after Beach got hurt, but if I'm not mistaken, you also had to go in earlier. I think Beach might have lost his shoe at one point.
Yeah.
And you had to go into the game. What was it like to get inserted into the Michigan game for the first time, sort of unexpectedly?
It was crazy, especially the first when he lost his shoe. I remember I was just kind of just sitting there like, wait, what's going on? And Coach Show was like, hey, go in. We need you to go in. So, at first it was definitely a little nerve-wracking, but I just got after that first little mishap that happened when I had to go back in for the second time, it was fine. But just as far as the experience, I mean, it was like a little taste. So ever since that day, it just kind of made me more hungry to play in this game, just because it was almost like a teaser. So I'm just looking really forward to it, and even the short time I was out there, I could feel it. Like, you could just feel the rivalry, and that's why I'm just looking forward to this game for so much.
And I've asked a couple of your teammates in the offensive line about this. Was interested in your perspective. You guys have run quite a bit of outside zone runs this year. I think maybe more than we've seen from this team in the past. Just what is it about your group up front, or maybe even JK, that's a good play for you guys?
Well, up front, across the board, I feel like we're athletic across the board, which kind of just helps us get on those blocks and get up to the second level. But just having a back like JK, he makes it very easy, because the slightest crease that he sees, he'll just take it, and it could go for 90 yards and something ridiculous like that. But I know that play has just been successful for us because the preparation that we've put into that play. Done a lot of reps of outside zone, and just the technique that Coach teaches on that play is, I feel like, has a lot of success to why we're able to run it so much.
And right in front of him, Doug from Cleveland.com.
Wyatt, does Michigan, do they run any more stunts on the defensive line than other teams?
What are you just talking about as far in general?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, they run a lot of stunts, but I mean, it's hard to say just because against, it seems like every team that we've played up to this point has done something different from what we've seen on film. So, but no, I mean, they definitely have their third down packages where they run stunts and twists and stuff like that, and we just got to prepare, get ready for any possible look that we could see. So, to answer your question, it's, I could say yes, but it's going to depend more on what we see on Saturday.
Just in general, how have you guys handled that when other teams have done that with you, making sure you guys are picking up everybody? And what's the key for an offensive line, when they're trying to maybe get a free rusher off, something like that?
As far as picking it up,
Just making sure you guys pick it up, and how well do you think you've done it this year?
well, it's just like mid-game adjustments. There's been multiple games this year where they may have came out and ran something that we haven't seen before, and it's just important for us to communicate that to the coaches once we get back off that drive, to explain what happened, what they were in, and what they did. And our coaches have done an excellent job of getting us out of those situations where we're not prepared. But there are times where it'll happen in the game just because they may not have shown it in previous games, and they could have been saving it for us. But it's just about a communication and getting it across to the coaches.
We've got time for just a couple more, because we got Chris Olave and want to be able to wrap up. Right next door, Nathan from Cleveland.com.
These games where it's going to be in the 30s, it's going to be snowy, I would think that to really excel in that, you'd almost have to welcome that. Have you gotten to that point yet where, a guy growing up not playing in conditions like that at all, do you, look forward to that yet?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a different challenge. Because like you said, growing up not facing that type of weather, it was different when I first came out here. But, you just kind of got to embrace it. I mean, it is what it is. It's going to, we know it's going to be cold. It's November. So I would just, I don't think it's going to have too much effect. I mean, obviously it's going to be a little chilly, but it's nothing that I'm really worried about.
Right. Coach Day has talked about in the past, you guys maybe you wear different shoes for the conditions, you practice sometimes preparing for it, but is the mental side of it as important, more important than anything you do physically on the day of the game?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Mental preparation is key, especially going into big-time games, and it really just comes down to knowing your stuff, knowing your assignments, knowing what you're supposed to do, because as long as you're confident in what the playing stuff, it kind of just feels for itself. So mental preparation, in my opinion, is probably the biggest aspect of, playing well and being successful.
Fourth row right, Aaron from MLive Media Group.
Wyatt, schematically speaking, how much different does this Michigan defense maybe look to you compared to last year?
I mean, they run some different stuff and some similar stuff from last year, but last year they had a really good front last year, so they were able to run a lot of different stuff. I'm not saying they don't have a great front this year, they do, but I wouldn't say it's too much, but I know that they're probably going to bring some stuff that we haven't seen before come game day on Saturday.
Front row right, Tim.
Wyatt, do you as a player and then you guys as a group, offensive line, do y'all prefer to go against what they call like opponents? I mean, talent level wise. Do you look more forward to those kind of games to prove yourself, I guess, for want of another term?
Yes. We love those. That's why we went to Ohio State, is because you want to play against the best. So in games like that where it comes down to, just those one-on-one blocks, basically either you or him, it's very fun. And there's going to be a lot of games, especially now, where talent equates up front, especially because, we're going to be facing more teams with really good defenses and defensive lines especially. So, we look very forward to the challenge.
And those teams tend to play you more straight up if you follow my drift. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's got tricks.
Yeah, everyone's got tricks, but yeah, sometimes they'll come out sometimes in their base stuff and just kind of see how it feels that first series, and then from then on they might come out in some different stuff if they're not able to hold up front.
Great. Wyatt, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
And we have Chris Olave, wide receiver, will be our last interviewee for the day. All right, we're going to open up the floor for Chris, far left, Lori from 610 WTVN.
Because you haven't played there, I'm wondering what your teammates have told you about playing in Ann Arbor.
I haven't really asked about it, but I'm looking forward to playing up there.
I understand the sidelines are really tight. Has anyone told you to look out for people on the sidelines or anything like that?
Like I said, I haven't really asked around yet, so I'm just looking forward to playing there.
Fourth row left, Jared from WCMH.
Chris, last year, some fans probably had to look in the roster, make sure they knew who you were, and that you were scoring 2 touchdowns and blocking a punt. How did that game last year, that performance, change your mentality, change your future? How big a deal was that day in your life?
I believe it changed my career. Having that game, and specifically that game was, we kind of build our program around that game, and that game was around our building everywhere. So having that game and that game specifically is, I believe it changed my career.
In changing it, is it just about confidence, or is there something more to it than that?
It was a little spark of confidence to myself, and I believe it brought me closer to my teammates. Them knowing that I could do that, and just giving all praise to them and the seniors last year, and just keep going with it.
Front row left, Doug from Cleveland.com.
Chris, did you understand at the time how big of a deal it was to catch 2 touchdowns in the Michigan game, or did you appreciate it more after the fact?
At the time, I didn't really know how big it was. I was just kind of playing football, and especially after the game, that's when it hit me. And my family was there for the first time, and they kind of they all had smiles on their face, and my teammates and my coaches and Buckeye Nation was astonished by the performance.
And right next door, Nathan from Cleveland.com.
Those opportunities you've had to go up and have to fight a DB for ball in the air and come down with it, how much do you look forward to that? Like, where does that rank on your things that you enjoy about football?
I think that's number one. I believe it's either you or him that gets the ball, and I'm not really a big target, and I like those jump balls when Justin throws it up and somebody has to come down with it. So that's not really a big part of my game, but I look forward to that.
You don't think of yourself as a big target. Do you use that to kind of make yourself a big target? And what's kind of the key to winning those?
Yeah, I look at myself as a big target, and I believe I could go up and high point the ball with the best of them. So that's one of the game, or one of my parts of the game that I try to work on, and he gives me an opportunity in the game to do that, and I try to come down with it.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
Chris, was there a moment after you arrived at Ohio State where you realized just how much this rivalry means to people?
It's first day I stepped on campus. I didn't really know how much the rivalry was when I first got here because I'm from the West Coast. But when I first got here, everybody was talking about it, and I believe we had a workout that day, and we had to do Team Up North abs, which is like after the workout we do how many days, counting down. That's how many abs we got to do for that day, and that's when I first heard of the rivalry.
Was that eye-opening for you, coming all the way from California to realize, like, this is such a big deal here?
Yeah, it definitely was, and coming here, I didn't really think that was gonna be a huge deal, but when I seen all the clocks in the building, counting down to that game, that's when I knew it was huge.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Chris, what is it about these high-stakes games last week included where you seem to have played your best? Why is that bringing that out of you?
That's why I came to Ohio State, to play in these type of games, and I wanted to play against the best. So when we get an opportunity to play the big game, I believe I got to bring out my best, and that's what I did.
Do you think at all, like, you're only a sophomore, but what you did in the game last year, Big Ten title game, now Penn State last week, are you thinking at all like you're already starting to leave a pretty impressive legacy and you still got a lot of football ahead of you?
I just continue to try to get better every day, and I give all praise to God and my teammates and my coaches, and they bring the best out of me, so I just try to go out there and do it for them.
Got time for a couple more. Right next door, Tim, Lettermen Row.
Yeah, Chris, Justin, how much better is he compared to the first game y'all played this year from a field awareness, finding guys, going through his progressions, et cetera? What have you seen change dramatically about him, especially in the passing game?
His ability to get the ball downfield has been a lot better. He overthrew a couple of receivers earlier in the year, and now he's got it underneath him, and he's putting the ball on us to let us make a play. So, and he's got a lot of game to him and a lot of toughness and grit. And we saw last game he took a lot of hits, and he bounced right back, and that's what we love about him.
So you heard about how big this Ohio State-Michigan game was coming in here and stuff, and then y'all win 62-39 last week here. I don't know. Did that change your thoughts on it, or is it still as huge as it ever was?
It's still huge. I know we got a lot of respect for them and their program. So having that performance last year, they had the #1 defense in the nation. So I believe they gotta have a little taste in their mouth and try to get us this year. So we gotta prepare for them.
And final questions, front row right, Bill from the Dispatch.
You came in as a bit of an under-the-radar recruit, but people talked about you pretty early on as a guy to watch out for Chris Olave. Did you have any sense before the Michigan game that could be your big kind of splash game?
I had no sense at all. I just came into every week trying to make a play when I get on the field, and that's the game I got a huge opportunity, and I took advantage of it, and give all praise to God, like I said.
Great. Chris, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Great job.